Hi, I'm Ray Waddell, and thanks for coming to this great, awesome roundtable. I have all agents celebrating our Impact 50 list, and it's a great list with some great folks. And this is kind of unprecedented to have a roundtable of agents of this stature. Things feel different out there. Things feel great. There's a real buzz. I mean, we've gone through something in the last 15 months that I don't think any of us would ever have thought about that would happen. But here we are, and I know everybody's slamming. I'm slamming. I bet everybody on this call is, and we don't want to waste any time. I'll jump right in and do this Hollywood Squares thing. Looks like everybody's here and looking well. From left, I have Marty Diamond, who is EVP, Managing Executive at Wasserman Music now. We've worked with Marty in a lot of different ways over the years. Next to Marty on my screen and in your hearts, Nadia Pressure, co-founder of Nito and Madison House. Hi, Nadia. How you doing? And next on my screen is David Zedek, partner co-head of Worldwide Music at UTA. Next to David, Carol Kinzel, the legendary agent from Creative Artist Agency. Always a pleasure. How you doing, Carol?
Great, thank you.
Going down the list, we have Kirk Summer, which is a very rare appearance. It's almost like a Bigfoot sighting, and I'm happy to have Kirk there.
Not me, Ray. It's not me.
Okay, we'll take whatever we get there. I've seen that painting before somewhere. And then on the end, we have Rob Gibbs, ICM head of music and partner there. So really powerful list. Great. How you doing, Rob?
Great.
So everybody can hear me? That's good. Good or bad, however you look at it. Imagine, it's been a very strange year for all of you guys. Different, considering what you do compared to what other people do. It's all so varied, but you had a very specific and particular challenge. But we'll look back a little bit, but really I want to look forward and talk about what it's like in your offices now, what you're doing on the phones, what you're doing on the emails, what are you focused on? Is it rerouting, rescheduling, rebooking, confirming, finding shows, avails, all of that? Anybody can jump in, but what's the primary focus today? David, since you're my first there, how about you?
Sure. First of all, hi, and thanks everybody. Ray, thanks for having me and all of us. Answer your question, what does our office look like? Honestly, right now they're when I say they're empty, but they're preparing to come back. We come back in Nashville June 1 and LA June 15th. So there's a sense of excitement, I think, and a sense of optimism right now. And to your question, yes, we're doing all of everything you said. Moving shows, rescheduling, getting ready for on sales. It's sort of like the tap got open about 6 weeks ago when people felt good in North America about the vaccines, and a real sense of optimism. And I always say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and the light got brighter. And we're preparing for a summer, right? And it won't be the typical summer season. It won't be the typical summer season, but it will be the semblance of one as festivals get moved later, to starting in August, and tours are going to route in and around places where they can and can't open. But the good news is that we will have a semblance of a touring summer, and then fall beginning a little more normal.
Carol, is that similar to how your day is being made up?
Ironically, we've been scheduling and rescheduling tours as long as I've been an agent. I have actually rescheduled some tours prior to COVID more than I've rescheduled them now. But I always had this, I always used to tell my clients, you get one reschedule, and after that, it's an extra charge. Unfortunately, we can't do that this year, and of course, we never really asked them to pass, but it was sort of a caveat. I think we're we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to make tours work, rescheduling. Sometimes we'll reschedule a tour and add new dates, which we'll have to relaunch. And I think that keeps it more exciting because there's more to talk about. We're thrilled that the fans have hung in there with us. And as David said, we're just looking to get into high gear by the end of this year.
Kirk, I understand y'all are close to moving in to the offices if you're not there already.
I'm here, Ray. I am here, and I'm very happy to be here. After a year in my wife's office, I just like completely had it. So it's great to be back. It's great to be here with everyone on this panel. There are no recharges or extra charges, but to Carol's point, I mean, it's been steady on the horse since we got sent home, just rearranging, trying to kind of get a large view, a global view, where's the vaccine at? Where are we going to land? So we've been really busy. I mean, on an annual basis, we book 35,000 shows a year. So that's a lot of movement, and we're deep into 2023. To David's point, Lollapalooza went on sale yesterday. That'll kind of kick off, the major festival season. But we're already getting into 22 because, that's going to be upon us. So it's going to be a little bit weird. You have festivals that are ordinarily in June, July that are now in the fall, and then they're going to come right back and announce for, what their normal dates are. So, there's no rest and relaxation around here. I think we all need a bit of a reset, but there's quite a bit of work to be done before, we'll be able to take a break.
It all seems like a nightmare puzzle to put together, especially on a global basis, but specifically the festivals and, with 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 acts and how important some of those plays are. And I know, Nadia, you're real active in that space. Has that been something that has taken up a lot of your time?
Yesterday, this group got together for a minute and, we discussed some of, how we're spending our days, and outside of the, rerouting, many of us are really in there with, CDC guidance and figuring out how to go state by state and county by county, because, this aspect of it is new, and CDC reviewed guidance will look different, 2 weeks from now and again in a month. And so I think we've all kind of learned that for this year, we definitely just need to be, prepared for the unexpected. I remember as things were kind of shaking across the globe on March 10 and 11, Adam Bauer was here in town, and he came into my office and told me that, he had picked up a tour and just added a year to it. And I thought, wow, that was really intelligent and got it out of the way. And then, it turns out that March 2021 wasn't further enough of a postponement. So yeah, we've been also working on Safe and Sound, which is a NEVA, Event Safety, NITO, Coalition of Performing Arts, and APAP is in there, and trying to create a good, checklist just to kind of get started. But we all know that it's a moving target and is going to change daily.
Rob, you work with artists on a lot of different things, and of course, the untangling of the year that should have been last year. Talk a little bit about what you're doing on a daily basis now, but also how the conversations with the artists have changed, because I imagine there were some difficult conversations for all of you guys a year ago. What are we going to do? What's the plan that you didn't have answers to? Now, maybe you got more answers, but talk about that communication.
Yeah, sure. I think, Carol and Kirk and David and Nadia kind of all, chimed in on it. We're all kind of doing the same thing. And it's like as David pointed out, the bright light at the end of the tunnel is quite bright, because we're all having to turn on sure, we were rerouting stuff, but things weren't going on sale. Marketing didn't exist, and so you were just rerouting stuff and holding and phone calls. This is going to happen, and following what was happening in the world, you know, with politics and everything else. And so that made it, you know, challenging. And so now we're in this place of, you know, of almost a reset, but also being smart about trying to be as smart as we can, I should say, with, you know, how we're routing and putting things together. Because again, when you talk about, you know, the demand, the pent up demand that's out there, while people are buying crazy tickets on with festivals and certain tours that are going up, you know, there are going to be some things that are going to get hurt just based on the fact in 22, there's a gazillion things out there. So we're trying to be smart to say, okay, well, you know, where should this artist, you know, play and what time of year in 22, what's going to be best? How far along are you on your record? You know, those are some of the conversations we're having with the artists. And, you know, they've, you know, our clients have been super receptive to it. I think, you know, for them in this past year and some change, it's been, you know, they've had that time to really create in a comfortable place of not feeling like they have to rush against, you know, a tour going up or a certain time period or so on and so forth. So we were able to say, listen, 22, you know, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter of 22 may be best for you because we know this arena tour, this arena tour, this arena tour is going, you're a theater act or you're a club act, and we know this club act is going. So just trying to navigate the waters as best as we can. And it's not going to be perfect by any means, you know, in the process. So that's kind of been our conversations with a lot of clients, and, you know, just that patience and trying to be smart about, you know, when we go and understanding the landscape and ticket prices, right? Like I said, you know, you've seen some of these tours go up and, you know, tickets blowing out at crazy ticket prices. That's not going to last all of 22. So best believe, you know, people and artists have to be smart about, you know, how they price their shows out moving forward.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary because and now it looks like this race to get out the door, you know, and get your licks in and get your stuff on sale. I heard a show coming in, and it probably works with one of you guys, but it was Alice Cooper for October 3rd in Nashville at Ascend Amphitheater. It's like, is it that critical to get that show up right now? You know, October, Alice Cooper at the amphitheater. Maybe it is, because sooner or later this discretionary income going to hit a wall. Marty, next up, man, it's been I would say eventful. I don't see a ping pong table back behind you like the last time I visited you over there.
I'm still in the same room that I've been in for 14 plus months, 22 hours a day.
You and John Oliver.
Obviously all my peers have covered off a lot of the things. I think we faced different challenges than many, and I have to compliment the artists we work with and the incredible agents that we work with, who through a very trying time have been nothing but unwavering in their support and belief in what we're doing. In addition to rebooking, rerouting, repositioning, remarketing, we relaunched and started a new company. And I think that, that task was Herculean, and it was Herculean from Casey Wasserman on down, and, every able body on up. So, for us, it's a very exciting time. And I don't think any of us in this group is going back to the same business that we were in. We obviously have an insane level of skills, and as do the agents that, work with all of us. But I think our business has changed. I think it is a time for us to all take stock in what this business is and how important and how special it is and how honored we should be to be a part of this business. And in fact, as David had said, it's a light in the tunnel. It is not a train coming at us anymore, but it is a light of hope. And that's how I'm looking at all of this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's taking it for granted anymore, if they ever did, which I'm not convinced anybody really ever did, but you get caught up in the grind of it. But there's going to be an appreciation for it on our side of it, and your side of it, and certainly on the artist side of it. And the fans appear to want it really bad, because what I'm hearing is the on sales are great. So let's talk about those on sales. Is there any rush? And anybody, now that I've talked to everybody, anybody can chime in. whenever you want or tell me to shut up. So it's happened before. But is there a rush to get on sale and get out there and tap into that? Get the tickets sold ahead of time, 6 months out or more, or are you playing it like you normally would? Are you cognizant of everybody else wanting to go up as well? What's the philosophy as far as getting shows announced and getting them on sale right now?
I think, a lot of the shows that we have going up and a lot of the artists that we're working with, they're working alongside a plan. I don't think anybody is running to the door to go on sale and grab the money as fast as they can. I think they're all looking at well coordinated plans. The interesting thing is, obviously, as Europe has not opened up, it is changing the pacing on some things. And I've had some tours that, what was the back of a tour became the front of the tour and ended up being shifted, but that hasn't changed the reality of what the timeline of the project is. So I think to some degree, some of it is predicated by the timelines that existed or that have been readjusted. But it's certainly not a race for any of our agents or any of our artists, because I think at some point, if we all behave that way, we're all destined to make mistakes. And I think the one thing we can't do in this business right now, in this time of renewal, and as Kirk used the term reset, is to start making mistakes. I think we need to be respectful of the fan. We need to be respectful of all our partners, be it labels, be it managers, be it artists, and be it our peers. So, I think it's a time of being smart and cautionary and well-paced, but there are also things that exist on timelines that people need to work from.
So mistake being pricing, coming on top of somebody similar, you're not going back to any markets too soon, right?
No.
Because every market's rested. So what are the mistakes? What would it be a mistake to do at this point in the game?
Well, Ray, before we get off what Marty was speaking about nationally, is that, I think for the domestic artists, it's obviously very different. Right now, Canada-US border is completely closed to any, non-essential travel. Anyone who had visas to come in last year to work, they weren't even refunded for, any of the visas. And Trudeau just a couple of days ago said that I think over 75% of people need to be vaccinated in Canada for things to start loosening up there. And, they're far, far from that. So I think we're talking about definitely different stories for domestic artists versus some of the artists that really rely on coming to the States, as part of their global career.
Yeah, well, to that point, I remember, Kirk, for a while, your whole thing was to go to the UK, London primarily, and scout talent, and you signed a lot of acts out of that that ended up becoming important acts. That's kind of shut off for right now if you still wanted to do that, right?
Why is that?
Why is that?
Why is that?
Well, some of them that are trying to come here.
Ray, I mean, maybe there aren't any more like spending more time in the air than on the ground trips, but we all have access to everything. In fact, to Marty's point, it's incredible the way all of our teams have come together, and helped one another through this period and communicated and done things with certainty while there was a lot of uncertainty. And one of those things that we could do was, listen to new music and turn people on to new music. And, that's been really great. Like for our group, it's been a huge moment of discovery where, ordinarily we're all really busy, making plans, performing our core business. Now we had a little bit more time to really kind of, listen and consume more music. And that doesn't require flying anywhere, right? It's right at our fingertips. It's in our ears. So that hasn't really changed anything. And to that end, I think the musicians and artists have been able to, create a lot more, right? Because what were they doing? They were home. They were in the studio. They weren't on the road. And oftentimes that's when they're able to do it. And the truth is, there are probably a lot of artists that finished albums that, were releasing new music and hit the road. And those plans kind of changed and they got to work on the next album. So there'll be, more music, out there, and they'll be either touring off of the previous album, the new album, whatever it is. And the truth is, and I don't want to speak for everyone, and everyone works differently, but I think when artists get to create, they kind of get into a groove, and they're kind of like in that mentality. They're not necessarily in the road mentality, right? And so it kind of keeps those creative juices flowing, and there might be more output, so travel doesn't kind of hinder us from discovering new music.
That's true.
I
'cause
agree.
That was your thing.
I agree 100% with Kirk. I think this time has been so creatively fruitful. I think our agents are signing incredibly well. There's a lot of really exciting talent. I think there's been a real growth in new managers who have entered the business, who look at the business in a different light. I think it's been an incredibly exciting time, despite the fact that
Marty, you need a light. Marty, you need a light.
no, I likes being in the dark.
It's lurking.
It's been an exciting time. I think that, it certainly hasn't stopped any of our agents from signing if they can't get on a plane.
Well, that's interesting and good to hear. And it's good to hear that you're finding talent. So we have this situation, a dynamic in play. A lot of them are really, really weird and different. But say you have the artists, especially in country, that work every year, no matter what, and play the amphitheater circuit and some arenas. Then you have in the rock world, a lot of times you'll have an act that'll play and maybe take 1 or 2 years off. It could be that a lot of those are all going to hit next year, right? So you're going to have the ones who tour every year who are really wanting to work, and the ones who are sporadic tours and had planned on 22 all along. And this is their strategy. Everybody's talking about traffic for next year and the how much of it there's going to be. Are you running into that on the ground, and are you communicating with each other to work your way around it? And is it a good thing, or is it something that it could be a potential challenge? How do you factor that in?
Well, I think it's going to be both a good thing and a challenge. And we really have to be aware of what is going on, what's going down. I keep pushing for everyone to be cognizant of ticket pricing. I see that a lot of artists feel the absolute opposite way, and promoters that they want to go back where they were priced or even higher. And I think that's something that everyone really has to pay attention to, because we have had economic stress in this country, and we are recovering, but it's going to exist for a while. I mean, I think they say it's going to be 2 or 3 years financially, economically, before people are completely back on their feet. The other thing that we have to be aware of, and I think everyone is the dearth of crew, drivers. I attended a seminar with the head of IATSE the other day. I mean, they're talking about not having enough riggers, especially in the summer with arenas, amphitheaters, and stadium tours. They're concerned about that. I talked to Robin Shaw, I'm sure, as we all do, and she's concerned about not having double drivers. There's the issue of if someone gets COVID in a van or a bus, what goes on there. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues that we're dealing with. But I also have artists who are going to tour in 22 who are moving to 23 for that reason.
Yeah.
They're addressing these things now. So hopefully by the time the dates actually come around, we'll have better news on that front.
Yeah, we're seeing emails swirling around about bands looking for tour managers. It's an issue we're all going to face in terms of band and crew and all the vendors that are involved with our lives.
Well, you've got so many acts touring, and you've got some people who aren't in this business anymore and got a taste of health insurance and paid vacations, and maybe aren't coming back out. But I think it'll work itself out like everything does. And I would compliment Carol on the Better Homes and Gardens background. That's pretty pleasant. I could just stare at that for a while.
I had to move to my living room because my internet keeps going out in the office.
We're all better for it.
I
Dave-
like it's nicer than my office at work, that's for sure.
David and Rob too, traffic problems. Is there any situation where you would tell somebody maybe wait it out till 23? Or it's hard to tell somebody hasn't toured in 15 months to maybe wait another year. It would seem.
Ray, did you mean wait till 22 or wait till 23?
Both. I mean, I heard 23.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends where Marty used the correct word, what the plan is, and what their release schedule are and what else they have going on in their career. Yeah, we've had conversations where we said, hey, it's better to push, especially again more internationally, right? We've all held some dates in Australia, which seemed like early on they were going to have it straight, and they seem to do a great job. Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Asia, and it felt like you could do that end of the year. But they're holding firm to their 2-week quarantine right now, right? And that kind of throws a tour budget out out of whack. So you push that, as you push one domino, the other dominoes might not fall down completely, but at least it gets shifted a little bit. So there's a lot of that following the health and safety of where artists can play. And if somebody is in between, I think it was Rob that said, at some point the bubble could pop. And you don't want to be the artist that gets caught out there and not be the event show. So we were telling people, if you're let's wait to music, let's strategize, and nobody can get it all back at once, right? Nobody's can grab that 15, 16, 17 months of inactivity, either financially or the amount of shows immediately. So let's strategize and put together the right plan. And if it takes us 18, 24 months to get right back as a business where you would have been in your career, it's better to do that than to have a real misstep. Could put you further down behind the 8 ball.
I agree with that, with what David just said, and I think it all falls in the plan, right? I've had clients that have kind of got, and I think Kirk mentioned this as well, that you had artists that's recorded over this time, and they're in their second or third project, and they got the plan to release an album, and that album, a lot of times in my world, artists don't want to tour that album that comes out in, I don't know, June, July, or whatever, a whole year and a half later. So they have to have another one in the can, and using this one kind of to set that up, whether we're going on sale a little earlier than normal, as we've seen some tours go up for summer of 22, just recently, and have had huge success. And so I think it really all falls in the plan, and then in the international landscape, again, is just a whole nother animal that, we're still all in a wait and see kind of place. So it really kind of falls on the plan, and which artists have that flexibility to kind of go later, because again, during this time, you've had some artists like, man, as soon as the world opens back up, I want to go. And, I kind of told them, listen, well, I want you to think about, do you want to be the guinea pig to go out there to see how this is going to work when certain shows get shut down? And I'm hoping that it doesn't. I hope that it works and it's clean, because it makes all of our jobs easier. But I don't know that I want to have the artists to, spend a bunch of money to go out on the road and possibly lose, a handful of shows that could be their profit in a sense, or break even, or whatever that may be. So, thinking about that. So I think it just depends on the artist and the plan ultimately.
I mean, there's so many things to consider, and that's what your job is, to consider all of those different perspectives. But one dynamic is just the dynamic of the deal, because it's like we're looking at a situation where potentially shows are more expensive to produce because it may cost more to do the show, and potentially, although I'm hearing less of that, it could be diminished capacity, right? But more and more I'm hearing full capacity. And then you've got a more expensive show and a reduced capacity versus a ticket price you got to be cognizant of with the people out there. So how do you figure that dynamic out if it does exist, and where's the give on that equation? Not just for you, but for whoever.
Ray, you were getting in a bad zone there. The more expensive shows at the reduced caps, that's a bad zone to be in.
Yeah. It's easy for me to sit there and observe that, but I mean, if that's the dynamic you're looking at, it would be tough.
Sorry, I think Nadia was going to say
No, it's
something.
okay. I was just going to add to what Kurt was saying, which was that we're basically doing, 4 to 10 times the amount of work that we used to be doing with the promoters. It's right now, this is really about being on the phone, being able to be flexible, working with the promoters in ways that normally we would not be. And each show is really different. I think many of us on this call are used to putting out a tour, and there's a good cadence to it, and there are reliability factors that you can count on throughout the tour. And right now we're just having to negotiate so many different aspects, with so many different venues going full capacity just a few days ago, specifically out here, Red Rocks and Dillon Amphitheater and other large venues going full capacity. It's put us back on the phone with, all the marketing teams, all the ticketing, and the promoters who are leading the show. So, and then I also just wanted to highlight what Rob was saying, which is the opposite of that. When you've got an international artist who wants to come to the US, we have some artists who were not able to even put out a record because they knew they couldn't tour, and without coming in for radio or any of the other things that go along with touring on a record, they're postponing the records. So like, Kirk said, there's going to be a lot of content when things do finally open up, for sure.
Any other comment on the deal and how flexible you have to be, and maybe some of these more difficult conversations about pricing, or who puts the bill for this or that, and how you approach it from what the artist wants or needs to earn, what the promoter has to have, and how the building looks at it from, I can't absorb all of this and still have a deal like we had the last time we toured in 2019. How are those conversations? Not fun?
They're not bad, Ray. I mean, the onus is on all of us here and the promoters working together. I mean, let's be honest. Since the last time we were on the road, some of the minimum wages increased. You got COVID cleaning costs. Yeah. There's just little stuff that fluctuates. It's not overwhelming, and you work through this stuff. That's true. It's on all of us in this period to get the business restarted and moving forward, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
But we are hoping that
we
the
all,
buildings, oh, go on, Marty.
no, we all live in an ecosystem that we all collectively have to protect and have to nurture back to health. So, we have to all be in it together.
Marty,
But Ray, we're certainly hoping that the buildings will be our partners in this as well. I mean, if there's a myriad of COVID costs, I mean, an artist shouldn't bear the entire brunt of that in percentage. The promoter shouldn't be the sole person, contributing. So, I mean, we really also need the buildings, because, I mean, the buildings are looking for our business. I think when we get hit with charges, which certainly I'm insisting that they are documented. We're not going to take this line charge that then exists into perpetuity because, it's just a, BS charge anyway. So, I mean, we have to know what they really are. And then we're looking for the buildings to participate in that as well.
I think there'll be more of that, more scrutiny on it now, probably. But it's kind of tightened up anyway. But what I'm hearing from the buildings more than anything is avails, it holds all the way down, holds, 3, 4, 5. And you guys, they would say, it's like, come on, let's have some commitments on some of these holds. They're getting 3 or 4 deep. And I'm sure you guys hear the same thing from the venues. So
this time of year, you always run into that, as you plan third, fourth quarter into first quarter of next year. We always had, where NBA and NHL are the main tenants. There's holds there that they can't move. right? There's holds that put on for in hopes of tours, and but at least my experience the last few months of this is once things opened up, is that the whole process has gone a little quicker, and the release process has gone a little quicker. That people, if they're not going to use it, have been able to get off the hold, quicker than usual, and tours have, at least for me, have come back a little. The routing's gone a little easier because of that. And I think as things get back to somewhat normal later on this year, once NBA and NHL get their schedule out, it's just going to be the process. I mean, it's just as Kirk says, before, about the challenges of cost. Like these are things that we go through a lot. It's just the variables that we work through every year anyway. They're just
Agreed.
they're just bigger variables today.
Yeah, and I'll say that when you talk about challenges during the pandemic, and you talk about the NHL and NBA, as we know their seasons shifted. We didn't know when we were coming out of this pandemic where we were with the vaccine, 3, 4, 5 months ago. And so there was a point of, does the NBA start their season, in January? There were talks of that at one point. And so that shifts, into deep into the summer, into the fall, where, some artists are used to touring their summers in arenas. That's just what they do, and just didn't know. So, now that picture's gotten, clear at this point, we know the NBA is coming back on their normal schedule, NHL as well, has made it a little easier, but it definitely made it a challenge with holding buildings.
I assume all of you have shows on sale right now and putting more up all the time, right? So would you say you're encouraged by what you're seeing? Is there any surprises? Is it you feel good about it? Has it made you change the way you're doing whatever? Guarantees, pricing, when to go? What are you taking from what's gone up the last 3 weeks or so?
Well, it's very encouraging. We're seeing festivals, and Lollapalooza went up so strong. Bonnaroo, we knew, basically is blown out, and so, I mean, that's certainly encouraging. And I think the one thing is that, we don't know when a myriad of shows go on sale. I think that's going to be the litmus test of how things work. But right now, we're really feeling good about it. Yeah. We're going up with some shows like on a very short notice, which, by the way, I have no problem with. I mean, for the beginning of the time, all the time when I first started out, we went on sale 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out max usually, and shows did really well. So I think we're proving to ourselves that going back to a limited amount of on sale time between announce and the show, it doesn't have to be 6 months. It can be a couple of months, which I think would be a great thing, because that time in between those 6-8 month on sales and the time the show plays, most people, by the time the show plays, will have forgotten it's even happening unless they have a ticket. So I think it's more exciting right now for everyone, and getting a lot of attention for the artists who are going out.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging. I think the one place we all have to kind of watch the page a little bit is, the big event shows feel like they're all going up, whether they're festivals or arena or large hall shows, feel like they're all going up very strong. I think we all have to watch the page a little bit on the smaller club things that, might be getting a little overshadowed, and a little bit of the money is being taken out of the market for those. So I think we have to be cautionary and mindful of those, particularly places where they're looking at, 7 shows or more a week, that, we gotta watch that really closely.
Yeah, you'll see these, not necessarily the biggest markets, middle markets will have shows every night of the week, and sometimes multiple shows the night of the week. And in that kind of scenario, somebody's gonna lose, you think. We hope not, but that's just the nature of this beast, even when things are normal.
Right. I think a lot of the variables you're mentioning and parameters, from scaling to routing and et cetera, just has to be scrutinized a little bit further with COVID and the you know, the economy, with everything else just being, you know, wait a little bit more. As I said it before, we can't get it all back at once.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I'm hearing that, and I'm hearing that you guys are communicating with each other, which would seem critical when you're talking about, I mean, sometimes the on sale is just as important to when the actual date plays, right? And having that place in the market, you know, to say, here we come, like Alice Cooper on my radio this morning, you know, he got in for October 3rd first. So you guys have to communicate a lot amongst each other, right? Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I
it's,
think we monitor what's, you know, everyone's on sales so that we're not on top of one another. But with 3 times the amount of tours going on next year, I think the fight for the exclusive window on an exclusive weekend, you know, I don't know if that's going to be achievable for 2022.
I mean, Ray, you try to air traffic control it as best you can. The reality is there's going to be a lot of tours going up on top of one another. And the other reality is, which, you know, as has been the case in the past, there'll be big competing shows and markets on, probably more so than ever, right? You do the best you can to avoid these things. You try to coordinate and communicate, but at the end of the day, it's going to happen, you know.
Look, that's a good problem to have, really, instead of no shows, right? I mean, wouldn't we all rather see concerts happening, period, and have a choice? Right. I know I would. So
I know that we also see it through, you know, a different lens. We're all living and breathing this, you know, 23 hours a day, so to speak. And there are many fans of concerts who might only attend a concert every other month or like 4 times a year, so to speak. So I think we also have to remember that if someone is a huge fan of an artist, they're going to go see it, whether it's in a month or it's in 6 months, and they might not be as concerned about all these other on sales. We're also watching a lot of fans being pretty vocal about their, you know, the pent up demand, and that they are, you know, willing to take out another credit card, you know, in order to see their favorite artist, because times have been tough. You know, Kirk mentioned, you know, wages going up, but obviously things have been very, very tough for a lot of people the last 14 months. But I think the love of music and, you know, the healing aspect of music, people are willing to put, you know, finances aside for some of their favorite artists.
Yeah, I mean, we were in an experiential economy pre-pandemic, right? Even in the retail sector, you saw people having different immersive, you know, situations, you know, experiences. Like we're entering a huge experiential economy, you know, like Gen Z, you know, people, it's in the data. They'd much prefer an experience over a tangible good. They might prefer their phone. And they may actually put the phone down for a minute to take something in and then show all their friends that they're at an event. But you know, to Nadia's point, you know, there are people that are going to buy a ticket before they pay, you know, an essential bill.
Yeah, you know, look, the craziness of this past year, in my mind, I believe the fact that there were no concerts and sporting events to go to and to unite around, and to have that shared passion that makes it so great. I think as a nation and around the world that it's cost us, but I think that it's something we need, and I think the artists would probably agree with that. But no matter what, we know we're going back into a different world than we left, right? The cultural and political sands have shifted the entire time this industry's been down, and it's going to have an impact on everything. But have you thought about the way this might have affected fans, artists, and concerts, whether it's social justice issues, whether it's political issues, which are often one and the same, whether it's being shell shocked from having to live in your house? Do you feel like we're coming into a different business in a way, or will it be like concerts are back, let's party? Is it going to be just cut loose? I'd be interested to hear what some of you think about that, and what the fan artist dynamic will be like when we come back. It's not an easy question. I could
think-
try to be a little more vague.
I think some of the artists are going to play some of the best shows of their lives. Like they're itching to get out there.
Yep.
And, you know, the public wants to respond, you know, I mean, they've been deprived of this, you know, in this territory, certainly for a year plus, you know. So you can't replace that experience, that, you know, that connection, that interaction, you know, that engagement with the people around you. I think we've all seen videos of stuff, you know, at different universities and what have you, or festivals that have happened. I'll just be honest. I mean, the people are out there losing their minds, like they're blowing off steam, you know, so I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah,
I think,
Go ahead,
Robert,
David. Oh, no, I was just going to say that, you know, as we've seen, the Gen Z generation really don't even know what COVID is. They're all having a good time and, you know, moshing and doing everything. So I think it'll be an extreme amount of excitement once things get back to somewhat of a normal and fans are out amongst each other. You know, we talk about social issues, you know, you've seen a lot of the protests and you've seen people come together in a way and in a deep emotional way. And we know what music brings to that. So I think, you know, there's going to be some highlight moments, some, you know, what I call Time magazine moments that we're going to see when we reflect on, you know, things coming back and those images and pictures and videos of just the fans over the moon. And I would say probably the you know, older demographic is going to be a little bit more cautious and kind of, you know, stand back a little bit. And, you know, it's going to take some time, but I think it's going to be certainly special when we get into that rhythm, because people certainly sat back at home, you know, missing that experience and that fan engagement, as Kurt mentioned a bit ago.
I just had, you know, that communal experience is something that people don't want to give up. And we can, you know, you can watch shows on your, you know, your screen, on your television, streaming. But there's something about that, you know, sports and music are common denominators around the world for people. And, you know, I really have to applaud anybody that, you know, improvised and used the ingenuity over the course of the last 14 months to put together, whether it be drive-in shows or pod show style shows or reduced capacity shows that, you know, on the artist side, they're willing to take the chance and go and do it, to play live, to connect to their audience, and the promoters, right? They're using completely different way of doing business. They redefined it for 14 months, or knowing that it was going to be a short-term solution. But that right away told you that people wanted to see that experience, whether they're watching it from outside of their car or an 8x8 square, whether they're getting tested on the way in early on. You can't replace it. And I think that's something that we're fortunate to work in a business that people want that and see that and aren't looking to do it by themselves on a screen, but want to get back out there and get into a field, get back to a club, get back to an arena, and watch their favorite artists live.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't wait. And you guys are all professionals, and this is, you know, what you do. And it's been a challenge, but I also know that anybody I ever talked to got into this because they love music, and probably most of you went to a show almost every night. I'd like to hear what you've missed most about it and what you look forward to, and what's going to be the we're back kind of moment for you when
Me,
you
it'll
get
be
to go back.
standing behind someone who's about 6 feet tall and looking at their shoulder blades and probably having them spill a beer on my back. And I will cherish that moment more than you can imagine.
Okay, mine would be a little different than that, but that's a good one. I get what you're saying.
I think for some of us, it would be seeing some of the shows we've booked for a third time, you know, like,
Yeah.
And in addition to that, going back to, you know, what we were talking about earlier, seeing some of the great artists that we've, you know, all started working with that we haven't had the opportunity to see live. Like, you know, I think we all love that, you know, first moment, you know, where you're in a live setting and, you know, you get to see someone who you've admired and engaged with and are talking to about developing their career. I mean, those are some of the most memorable moments for me.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Yeah,
agree
I
more.
was-
I would say, often, even, prior to the pandemic and that whole thing, often asked, what do you love about being an agent and that whole thing? Most gratifying thing for me is, when you are at that show and it's it's sold out and you're looking around and you're seeing people have a good time in that moment. It's the one thing as the human side of you is the, for that time, for that 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, most people are putting their problems and issues and all those things to the side and enjoying a moment. And obviously we just went through a very tough year, I think all of us. So to be able to feel that energy in a room and know that, again, you were part of doing that in a small way. As agents don't get a lot of credit. So, in our small way, it means a lot. And so I think that to me is what I'm excited about, is what always drives me going to shows. I just love that energy and that true place of people putting their problems, issues in the world aside for music. So for sure.
Well, agents are my heroes, so you get a lot of credit with me.
There you go.
For me, it's going to be really along those lines. It's going to be going to the like a festival, like a Bonnaroo or one of the others, and seeing everybody that you've only Zoomed with or emailed for the past 15 months, and getting the FaceTime with folks with maybe even without a mask on, which in my case it's an improvement.
I went to see a client do a live stream at a venue, full production, and I got there early and it felt normal. You got there, an hour and a half before, empty room. They were doing the final, focusing of lights and a little line check, and just being there and talking to the artist and his team and his crew and the venue team. It felt normal, other than the fact when the lights went down, there were 6 of us, in a venue for 4,000. And he taped it and it was great. But just for just being in that environment, you said seeing people face to face. I think it's that the whole infrastructure of putting shows on and what we do on their desk, and then actually be able to see it as Robert said, to see it, to feel the energy live. I think that we're some part of the process is missing now. We're doing all the work. We just don't get to see. It's like we have all the ingredients. We just can't see the cake. Right. Yeah. And I think that seeing it all gelled come together is what I'm looking for most. All of it and the audience.
Yeah. I had this moment during this time that was a pretty magical moment for me, in that Sarah Browse went into the Hollywood Bowl, and we recorded a live stream for the celebration of her live at the Hollywood Bowl record. And it was pretty surreal being in the Hollywood Bowl with 65 people, hearing an amplified voice again. And, now I just dream about, being in the Hollywood Bowl with a whole lot of people cheering and participating. So the idea of that is pretty special. Although that surreal moment at the Hollywood Bowl was pretty magical. And it's something I will hold on to for a very long time. And it was a case of artist perseverance to do something too.
And you have to find that, and you guys are in a position where you love your artist and others, and you have a respect for the fans and that connection. When the artist isn't connecting with the fan, then you don't have a business, right? So that's the missing piece of it, and that's why streaming doesn't work, because you're not in the room. Do any of you guys have concerns about GA long term? And the future of GA concerts and this new awareness of what a virus can do?
I think a GA concert, well, I mean, if you're talking about indoors versus outdoors, because certainly these people who are buying tickets for all the festivals are not concerned about being with 100,000 people for 4 days. But, I think indoors, I don't think there's going to be really pushback for people who want to go to a show and are used to going to GA shows indoors from having a reserved ticket. I don't perceive that as something that people will object to.
I don't either.
I don't think we're in germaphobe economy, Ray. Like, I said it before, but it's like, around 9/11, it took a while for volume sales to get back to what they were pre 9/11. That's not what's occurring, here. There may be some people, but I don't think it's really going to kind of change where we were pre-pandemic.
I think at the same time, we're going to have to just be very patient and flexible, because as we see how, variants might play out in the fall or earlier, and just kind of, be willing to be flexible is really what we've been telling, the artists that we work with. Back to things that I'm looking forward to and that I've kind of noticed. Yesterday, when a few of us got together, I was just reminded how I think in the last 14 months, either you figured out that this industry wasn't for you, or you fully recommitted, and to see faces in boxes that, I know I'll be spending time with this summer and this fall, it has been something that, I'm very much looking forward to. There are also some things that I think people won't go back to, some restaurants may have you, only use a QR code for looking at their menus, or, some things came out of this, like Fly Machine and Lively and some of those sorts of things, will likely stick around. I know that I've also developed some really incredible relationships through this time. Most of you guys know that Nito, was very, very active in the SVOG. And those are people that for the last 14 months, as I've mentioned already, felt like we were in a war bunker together. And, being able to see them in person and, congratulate them on a job well done will be something, that I really appreciate. Also finding out, new people that have been operating in this business for a long time that I didn't know. I discovered a digital marketing company called Media Whisper, and I didn't know Jordan Berger was putting on concerts for his neighbors. And there's just been a lot of things. And also some people have really, risen up during this. I hired an assistant mid-January 2020. And, just as she was like figuring out how to use the phones, like, the world turned upside down. And so Amanda was a big part of, SVOG and also the Vax for Live program. And it's been interesting, but I'm excited to, reconnect with the people who really have doubled down and recommitted to this business, which I think is, the greatest business in the world.
I think there's also, I think we can't forsake family in any of this. I think all of us in some regard have had to have incredibly patient souls sitting alongside all of us through this process, as everyone in the world has. I can tell you I'm touring colleges right now, which is somewhat bizarre. I think at UC Santa Barbara, we saw 11 people in an hour and a half. But it's trying to find normality in a time of a lack of it. And I think, seeing this all come back, my kids, their perseverance and patience through this process has been unwavering. And I can't say how much I appreciate them for that, because this could be a challenging time for families. So it's exciting.
My wife's ready for me to go somewhere, anywhere. Don't you?
Yeah, I think
travel for
anytime
this
I leave,
job?
I get a sigh of relief.
I mean, look, it's been something I hope we never have to do again. Congratulations on Impact 50, and
Thank you.
it was a challenging year to do this. I think all of you did something special, or when you don't have any shows to look at, or career development from touring to look at, and no box office to look at, you look for other things, and one of it is just your character and what you've done, and how you've made your way and navigated this crazy landscape of the past 15 months. Thank you for doing this, and remind everybody, shameless plug, Pollstar Live is on, baby, and it's going to be in LA 15, 16, 17. Some of you have confirmed, some of you I'm still pounding on. I think it's very important to us and to Tim, my boss, to show confidence in people gathering. And if we want people to come to our events, then we have to be bold and and gather, because these Hollywood Square moments are appreciated, and it's gotten us through it, and it's been somewhat entertaining. But there's nothing like being in the room and having a drink and seeing our friends and just having a great discussion. There's never been a more important time for that. So I hope you can come, and we'll stream it if you don't. And mostly thanks for staying open and accessible for us to talk to you guys during all of this, and for being candid with your opinions. And I appreciate that. If anybody has any parting words, we can call it.
I would say, Ray, it's apropos that I think Pollstar Live will be the first live thing that many people in LA will be going to as the state of California opens on June 15th. So, good timing on your part.
That's what Tim set out to do, really. He said, listen, we might hit the sweet spot of it. And it looks like maybe we did, if LA will open up,
Yeah.
And people, that moment before everybody's too busy or out there, and before you're open enough to actually get together. So we're cautiously optimistic, but I've booked 100 speakers and great ones, and we've got some exciting things to announce in the next couple of days. So we'll finish strong, and all of you, I hope to see you in LA. If not, I'm sure I'll see you at Bonnaroo or somewhere else down the road or at a show. And if you make it to Nashville, holla. All right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I really
Thanks for
appreciate
this honor.
Thank you, Ray.
it. Thank you. Bye-bye.